Hey, let's talk about memory loss. It starts with a few misplaced words, and then you pull into their driveway and you see that the car is all scratched up either on the front bumper or the back end. And then during dinner, they ask you the exact same question about your job 3 times in 10 minutes. And you feel alarmed because you see the early signs of memory loss. But the second you gently bring it up after dinner, the entire mood in the room changes and your parents' posture stiffens and they deny it. And they say, everybody forgets a word once in a while. And to make matters worse, your siblings chime in from afar and claim that you're just being overdramatic. Then suddenly you find yourself completely isolated on a lonely island, carrying the burden of an impending crisis because you know something's going on. Hi, I'm Suzanne Fasella. I'm a retired physician assistant and senior care strategist. And I show exhausted family caregivers how to break out of constant crisis management and step into confident leadership, protecting the senior that you love without completely losing your life in the process. So backing down to preserve the family peace is a dangerous, high-risk caregiving mistake. And here's why. When you let the parent deny or the sibling skepticism take hold of what's really going on, you're going to slip directly into what we call the denial spiral. And you take on and you agree to support their excuses. You'll end up waiting for a major financial scam or lost car trip or an accident or a severe medical emergency that's going to force an intervention. That's what happens, is an intervention. And when an aging parent denies that their memory slips, it's easy to assume that they are just being proud or difficult or stubborn. But it's not the case always. Neurological research reveals a much deeper involuntary medical reality. In many cases of early cognitive decline, senior denial is caused by a clinical condition called anosognosia. I say it, anosognosia. It is a neurological deficit that leaves the person physically unable to recognize their own disease or impairment. The brain mapping data shows this condition is caused by structural changes in the right frontal lobe of the brain. This is the specific region responsible for self-awareness, self-reflection, and error processing. So it is at this point that they can no longer, and this is from Johns Hopkins and Mayo and all healthcare facilities know about this, anosognosia. I can hardly say it. But what it is they cannot physically, their brain is not working. One of the ways we know that this is going on, and their brain is genuinely failing to register the memory mistake the moment it happens, is because they're not embarrassed about it. They don't recognize it. Most people go, oh, I'm sorry, I did ask you that. What am I thinking? But these people don't know that they asked it. So if they forget a conversation from an hour ago, the memory of that conversation does not exist to them. It's long gone. So are these people embarrassed about it? Or are they just saying it never happened? So before we look at how to bypass this denial, take a second to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up and share it. Your quick click tells YouTube to push this out to other families that are struggling just like you. It is tempting to pull back to avoid a fight, but early tracking is vital for ruling out reversible causes of cognitive impairment. And the National Institute of Aging emphasizes that early testing allows medical teams to identify non-progressive issues that mimic permanent dementia. Say, for instance, severe vitamin B12 deficiencies, which can directly impair memory processing speed. So we got to look at that. How about thyroid mismanagement? Thyroid mismanagement, oh my gosh, I've seen so much of it, routinely causes massive mental fog and lethargy. Let's not get started on what medications can do, especially pain medications. Talk about mental fog and lethargy. Normal pressure hydrocephalus causes severe memory loss, but can be completely reversed by a medical professional. But your parent is going to mask these gaps at the doctor's office using that behavioral phenomena you now know as social preservation. So when they walk into the exam room, their adrenaline spikes, as does their blood pressure often, and they use deeply ingrained social routines to navigate the interaction perfectly. And they joke with the nurses and agree enthusiastically with the doctor, and they use the vague phrases like, "Oh, you know how it is at my age, doc," to dodge memory tests. And if you do not intervene privately behind the scenes with objective data, that physician is going to miss the cognitive decline that you're going into that visit to address. They're not going to see it. They're going to wonder what's wrong with you. To build a safe environment for your parent without destroying their relationship, you must stop arguing over memory lapses. Every time you shout, "Don't you remember we just talked about this?" you trigger their neurological defense mechanisms. Instead, execute this steady care plan documentation strategy behind the scenes to get this done. So tip number 1, got to keep a private, objective behavioral log. It's objective. It is not how they snapped back at you. It is not how you felt. It is about what they said and what they did. Stop tracking vague concepts like "Mom seemed confused today." Say specifically what happened. "Mom repeated the same question 3 times in 10 minutes at 7 o'clock at night or during dinner." Okay? Keep this and write it down. October 14th, "Mom left the kitchen stove burner clicking on high for 2 hours." Write down. October 19th, "Dad got disoriented driving home from the local grocery store he's been using for 10 years. Next, you give all this objective data to the doctor and the nurse ahead of time. So you're not arguing with your parent, "Can I give this to them?" No, you just give it to the doctor. This causes immediate humiliation, and your parent's going to shut down and be embarrassed in front of the doctor if you give it to them in front of the doctor. So instead, in front of the parent, you sneak it in. All right? You sneak it in. There have been times when I've gone with clients to the doctor's office, and there's no way that I can take this paper. That's a list of all the things that are going on with the patient, my client, and I can't get it to the nurse because the patient, the client, will see me do this. So as the nurse is saying, "Okay, the doctor will be right in," I say, "Oh, where's your restroom?" And she says, "Oh, follow me." It's always what they say, "Follow me." You got to make sure that they're going to go out with you. And sometimes they don't go out with you. They're at the door. And I get around the corner of the door in the hallway and I start waving to them to come out and see me. And then I hand them the paper because it's always in my purse. So you got to use some strategy here. Okay. You can give it to the front desk. There's no guarantee it's going to get back to the nurse. I like to give it to the nurse or the CMA directly. All right. So give them that log, and I do it right there at the appointment. Always do it right there at the appointment. And make sure it doesn't go in their medical chart because you don't want the client or your parent to see it. But it forces them to take responsibility, and it forces them to address the issue. I've never had a physician or a PA or a nurse practitioner say, "Oh, your daughter gave this paper to me. What do you think of it?" I've never had that happen. They're totally respectful of it. And yes, you can give them information. According to HIPAA, they just can't give you information, but you can give them all the information you want. So keep this objective behavioral log. Start working on it this week, and then leave a comment below and let me know. Is your parent really brushing off early memory changes? Are they being embarrassed when they do it, or are they just looking like, "No, I never said that"? Or are your siblings accusing you of overreacting? Let's build a care strategy together in the comments below. You cannot hold all of this together by sheer willpower. Just can't do it. Trying to run senior care by reacting to one emergency to another is just going to burn you out. And love is not enough. You need a plan for all the things that are going on with your senior care. Not a bunch of quick tips, because they're going to change over time. They always do. But you need the strategies behind them. You need the guardrails in place, especially when the emergencies hit. So go to the description box and click the link to get into our community and get the 75 most common senior care problems families face every day. I've seen all of them. I've worked with all of them. Learn exactly how to identify these early red flags and put these guardrails in place before they take over your whole life. And I'll see you in the next video. Take care.